Ain't supposed to be on. Babylon the Great, God remembered her. I can't roll this tape.
No, I'm going to call you back in a little bit, okay? We're right in the middle of a video. Bye.
He's unplugged now?
Yeah.
That's great.
Sorry about that.
Fantastic. I just can't get over that one. God remembered Babylon because her sins have reached unto heaven, and she's remembered, and God's remembered her iniquity. Note the same events that caused the fall of ancient Babylon, that caused the fall of spiritual Babylon at the time of the end of the Grace Age, or coming of the Messiah. Revelation makes it very clear that there will be another Babylon at the time of the end. The Babylon spoken of in Revelation is not the same as Babylon of Daniel's day. When Alexander the Great conquered Babylon, it became a heap of ruins and has remained so to present day. It never would arise again, the prophet said. The Bible foretells the rise of another Babylon, which will do the same to God's people, and did as did ancient Babylon. Modern Babylon is Revelation's symbolic name for the final great oppressor of the people of God. It's the final great apostate church system, the uniting of church and state again, the revival of the old world power. Question 13. By what other symbolism does Revelation call Babylon?
The great prostitute who sits on many waters.
The great whore who sits on many waters. She is in spiritual defilement. She is in high treason, spiritually speaking, because she's causing the inhabitants of the earth to worship falsely the wine of abomination. She's made them all drunk with it. Question 14. What do the waters that the prostitutes sit on represent?
The waters are people, multitudes, nations, and languages.
Yes, note the waters represent all the people over which Babylon has control. Babylon is called prostitute or harlot because of her illicit relationships. Spiritual fornication is the key word. Question 15. What is the great sin of Babylon? 17:2.
With her, the kings of the earth have committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her fornication.
Let's read it like it is. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, spiritual fornication. Excuse me, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated or made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Note Babylon's great sin is adultery. Adultery is an illicit relationship. We are talking here of spiritual things, so obviously in this case it is not physical adultery but spiritual. Spiritual adultery combines the worship of God with false worship. In Daniel 5, we saw that ancient Babylon acted defiantly against God by mixing elements of worship of God with elements of pagan deities. Spiritual Babylon's adultery likewise is an illicit relationship that mixes elements of the worship of God with pagan practices. As we studied in these last days, America practices in principle all the pagan traditions of the old world. Babylon purports to worship God, but mixes truth with error, paganism with Christianity. This can only lead to disaster. It did in ancient Babylon, it will again. Question 16, what does God call this prostitute who defiles God by mixing paganism with Christianity?
Babylon the Great.
Babylon the Great. Note in Revelation, God is warning us against apostate religious systems that mixes paganism with Christianity. Boy, can I have a field day with that subject, and yet claims to worship God. Yeah, they claim. Christ said that when they come up before him saying, we've done all these works in your name, he'll say, depart from them, I never knew you. We must be vividly aware that both Daniel and Revelation are warning us against false religious systems in the last days that will attempt to force people to worship God falsely. Just as ancient Babylon, how important it is that we be as faithful as Daniel so that we are not corrupted by modern Babylon. What message does God proclaim about modern Babylon? Revelation 18:2.
Fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a home of demons.
Home for demons. My Bible reads, Babylon the Great has fallen and become a habitation of devils, and a hold of every unclean, and a cage of every unclean bird, and hateful spirit is the way it should be reading. Note, just as ancient Babylon fell when it defiled God by mixing the worship of God with paganism, so mighty spiritual Babylon falls when it mixes paganism and Christianity. As it commits this foul act, it becomes the place where devils dwell. How widespread will the influence of mighty spiritual Babylon be in the last days? 18:3.
For all the nations have drunk of the maddened wine of her adultery with her.
All nations have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Revelation 18:3. Note, Babylon the Great is a worldwide spiritual apostasy from truth. Her adultery is worldwide, and nearly all are deceived by her. In one form or another, we'll find out when these lessons progress that every nation keeps, in one form or another, these pagan traditions that have swept the world and entered the modern church liturgical system. Question 19. What loving message does God send to his people who are in Babylon?
Come out of her, my people.
Revelation 18:4 and 5. God must have people in this apostasy, this worldwide spiritual apostasy of worship or church system. He must have people in there, or he won't be wasting his breath saying, come out of her, my people. Note, interestingly, God states that he has people who are in Babylon, just as some people in ancient Babylon were faithful to God, so today some of God's people are in modern spiritual Babylon. But God is calling his people to come out of spiritual Babylon before the final wrath is poured out upon her.
Spiritual apostasy may surround us on all sides in the last scene of Earth's history. How important that we remain loyal and true to the Bible. That is our only safety from the snares of the final great apostasy. Chapter 7 of Daniel adds a significant detail about this false religion, which will envelop the whole world in the last days. God clearly warns us so that we will not be deceived by the apostasy of the end time. In love, God warns us who may be entrapped by modern spiritual Babylon to get out as soon as possible, before the end of time, before it's too late. Question 20. Are you certain you are not part of Babylon? If you find that you have unknowingly been ensnared by Babylon, are you willing to heed God's warning? Yes, we are.
Yep, I was willing to heed it. I think they misspelled that word there. We will be back with lesson 8 in just a few moments. Hopefully with no telephone.